Hello, welcome to another episode of UMFS Live. My name is Nate. I am the communications specialist at UMFS. I am logging in now to get our guest invited to the room. We should be joined by Nurse Florence from our Child and Family Healing Center, which of course is our residential program here in Richmond. And here we go. Hi, Nurse Florence. Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for joining us today. I was glad to hear that you were available to join us. And I think I'll just jump right in if I can. We've already talked through a little bit earlier and the connection's good. So let's get going. I wanted to thank you, Nurse Florence, for being with us. And the first thing that I was thinking about when you agreed to come on UMFS Live was I was thinking back to last March. And it was one of the first times that I had an opportunity to work with you. Unfortunately, the circumstances were bizarre, to say the least. I think it was March 23rd, you and I worked together to produce a video that really gave a deeper look, or at least what we knew at the time, of what the coronavirus was. And I will never forget sitting down here in one of our offices down on the Richmond campus and recording that video. How long had you even been at UMFS in the Child Family Healing Center when that happened?
It was just over a year.
So, you were still fairly new to the organization. Had you ever imagined that you would, have to deliver that sort of message from a professional standpoint?
Definitely not. That was completely new to everybody. Nobody had any idea what was doing.
Yeah, and you did such a nice job in the moment of, communicating what we knew, which again was very little at the time. But going back, having known that you were with the organization about 12 months at that point, what was it that brought you to UMFS? Had you worked with young people in this capacity before?
As a nurse, I've always been a pediatric nurse. So I've definitely worked with children my entire career, but I had never worked in this type of facility or mental health.
And we've talked on this show with other guests about, the resolve of UMFS staff, especially those who work in residential direct care. And as a nurse, you're as frontline as it gets. Did you have any fear or anxiety about that pandemic? And, how did you manage your personal concerns?
No, I mean, it was definitely scary to think every day when I woke up that we are in a global pandemic. It was just, unbelievable. No, I was definitely anxious, and everybody was looking to me at work for answers, and I had to keep it together for the sake of my job. But I didn't know everything, and I had to just follow, what I read on the CDC and just try to guide everybody in the right direction with the help of our doctors at UMFS.
Well, and you and your team did such a great job really navigating uncharted territory. And you and I were also talking a bit earlier that, when we're speaking about how this affected everyone personally, you mentioned that one of your children was living in New York City when all of this unfolded.
Yes, my youngest daughter works in New York City. She does work at a hospital, but she works in a laboratory, so no direct patient contact. But yeah, that was frightening, having her be there where the coronavirus was at its worst.
Right.
But she's fine. She's doing well.
Well,
She
good.
didn't got sick.
No, and that's very fortunate. We all feel fortunate when we're able to stay healthy through an event like that, especially an ongoing event that just didn't seem like it was going to end. Things appear to be going well now in terms of health. And with that in mind, though, the residents at the Child and Family Healing Center really had to endure a lot just to get to this point where we are today. Can you talk about the resiliency of the young people at the Child and Family Healing Center?
Well, children are more resilient in general than adults physically, medically. And so, that was helpful because we did get some COVID cases on campus, but the kids did great. They were hardly sick at all. Um, and these kids are extra resilient because of what they've been through in their lives. So that made it a lot easier. They're all very tough.
What sorts of concerns were the residents expressing? What were they coming to you with during the height of the pandemic?
Oh, just so many things. We had some kids that were very scared of getting COVID, and would come in quite often thinking they had COVID, come into my office wanting to get tested and worried about it. We had others that were not worried at all about that, but just wanted their freedom back because they weren't going on outings. They weren't getting to mix with the other kids. So that was causing a lot of anxiety as
You
well.
know, that's an excellent point too, because I think what a lot of people may not realize from the outside looking in is that when all of that was happening, events for those youth were canceled. They weren't leaving campus. We didn't have volunteers, which are so important to our organization and to the youth and families that we serve. We weren't able to have volunteers on campus, and it was really a challenge for staff to find ways to keep the youth engaged through such a strange period. How would you compare the atmosphere on campus today versus maybe this time last year?
Well, in some ways, it's a lot better. We are starting to open back up. Um, the kids are starting to have more outings and things that they are allowed to do. Of course, the weather's better, so that's good too. Um, and they're starting to become vaccinated. Most of our residents got their first vaccine already. So, definitely much happier in that sense.
Yeah, and you can notice that, coming into campus and just looking around, and you can kind of see there's at least a sense of relief, and the staff here do such a nice job keeping the youth and the residents engaged. And I'm wondering actually if you can talk a little bit about that. Just talk about the CFHC staff and the work that they're doing with these young people.
Well, I mean, when